Hello everyone, welcome back to the Dainty Seamstress for How To Tuesdays. Today we'll be exploring buttons and how to attach them to your projects. So I have with me today 3 different types of buttons, and the first button is this 2-hole button, just 2 holes. The next one is a 4-hole button, and I have 2 shank buttons with different types of endings. One has a loop and the heart one is a little more rectangular. So let's get started. I have my needle and thread. The first thing that I'm going to do is mark the placement of where I want my buttons to go. So if you like, you can pause the video as well and mark where you want your buttons. And also, I found these buttons. Where did I find these buttons? In a bag at the thrift store. That's like a really good place that you can go and find a lot of crafting supplies if you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, or if this is just something you're just trying out. Okay, so to get started, I'm just going to take my needle, and where I marked the dot, I'm going to come in through the back with my needle on the side of the marking. And I'm going to pull my needle through. Then I'm going to take my button and enter the needle through the first hole, get the placement right on the fabric, get the button in the right spot, and put the needle through the other hole, coming down on the other side of the button. And I'm going to pull that through and secure the button. Okay. Then you want to repeat the same step maybe 2 or 3 times to make sure your button is secure. I'm using a silk button thread. So silk is a really strong natural fiber, and I like to use it for the buttons. If you're using regular thread, if you don't have access to button thread at the moment, I would say you would want to do the same step maybe 4 or 5 times, because your thread might be a little thinner. It's okay. And so I'm just coming through the back, up through the front again, and I'm going to go down again into the other hole. Okay, that looks pretty good. And you want to have you're going to have a little bit of room through the back. So we're coming in through the back with the needle. This time we're not coming through the hole. We're just coming up on side of where we marked. And then I'm going to take the tail thread that we have. You're going to wrap that around 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. That's going to create a little wiggle room for the button to be able to move. And then we're going to just secure it with a knot. You can make this knot as many times as you like. I would say a minimum of 2 knots. Okay, I'm just going to clip that. And that is the 2-hole button. And that's what the back looks like. Not too shabby. Alright, now we're going to sew down the 4-hole button. The steps that you'll see here are a bit similar to what we did with the 2-hole button. So I'm just placing it right now to get the positioning. You want to take your needle on the side of the dot that you marked and pull it through just like we did with the other button. Place it, and this time you're going to make a cross when you stitch. So you're going to go, you can really start with any hole, but you just want to make sure that when you enter into the next hole that it's a diagonal. So the whole diagonal to where you started. You're coming through the back, you're going to make the other cross from the top diagonal to the next hole. and pull. And so there's the cross, and you're going to repeat this 2 or 3 times, again depending on how thick your thread is. So we're pulling it through, and that's what it looks like on the back. Not too shabby. So we're going to come up again through the back, but not going through the hole this time. We're about to go ahead and wrap the thread around 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. When you're pulling it, it's going to squeeze the thread that went through the button, so the button will have a little wiggle room to move around. And you want to knot this 2 or 3 times to secure it, and then just clip your thread. Just gonna clip this, and there we have it on the back. Very clean, very nice. That is the 4-hole button with a little wiggle room. Next, we're going to move over to the shank buttons. I have this little dove, and I have a heart shape. Again, I'll show you. There's the loop shank, and then this one has more of a rectangular shape with a hole. And so I'm going to start with the heart button. So with these, it's all pretty much the same thing we're doing. So you marked where you're going to put your shank button. Come in through the back with the needle and thread. Gonna pull it through. Putting it in through the hole in the shank. Putting the needle into the thread on the side. And pulling. Now see right here, I did make a mistake and I allowed one of the threads to kind of cross over, and I did not feel like pulling that out. So I'm actually just gonna leave it just for the sake of time for this video. And so yeah, you're just gonna pull it, get it secured, and you're gonna go through that same hole in the shank maybe 2 or 3 times to secure it. So now I have the button sewed on, and I'm going to wiggle it to create some space in between the shank and the fabric. So when we wrap the thread those 3 times, it'll leave room for the shank button to be able to move. All right, so I have the button on here, and I'm going to wrap the thread around it. 1, 2, 3 to secure it. And wrapping this thread around the same thread that we sewed through the holes of the button is going to create room between the shank and the fabric, allowing the button to be able to move when you go to button up your blouse, or when you go to button up whatever you put this button on. You want there to be enough room so that when you put that button through the hole of the other fabric, that it looks nice and it sits flat. And that's what creating that space does for it. And there we have it. Okay, and this last button is another shank button. It has a looped shank. And so it's going to be the exact same thing as what we did with the heart button. So right now I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about, something that recently happened to me. So last Tuesday I didn't upload a video because my uncle passed away. This uncle was very dear to me, very close to me. He is the one who taught me how to sew. So I'm only able to share these sewing tutorials with you because I was taught by my uncle. So this is the first family member close to me that passed away, and so I'm dealing with grief, and it's a very interesting thing to go through. I was confused a lot of times, angry, and what I know helped me through it was praying and just trying to make peace with it, because he was suffering. He had to go through dialysis and he was waiting to get a kidney, and it was stressful on him. And I just spent a lot of time thinking about all of the memories that we shared, because he raised me like I was his child. My father was not in my life, and so I had my Uncle Billy. And he was a wonderful man, and I'm just grateful that God allowed him to be in my life and to be with my family. He was a good man, a very decent man with a big heart and a love for his family, and we will miss him dearly. I'm going to keep sewing. I'm never going to stop sewing. And each time I put a needle into some fabric, I am going to think about him, and I'm going to give thanks to God, because he showed me how to be a lady. He showed me how to care for people through how he cared for his family. And so I just wanted to share that with you, and just to, encourage you guys to stick with your family. Don't let small things get in the way, and just love on your people and love yourself too. So that's going to be all for the Dainty Seamstress for How To Tuesdays. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you use it for your projects. Go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will be seeing you guys in the next video. Thank you for stopping by.